hecho de paz y una oportunidad para que nuevas historias, otras historias, lleguen a los territorios más afectados por el conflicto armado y la inequidad en Colombia.
Todas y todos podemos ayudar a que la paz se siga escribiendo en el Bajo Cauca, en el Catatumbo, en el Pacífico Nariñense, en el Chocó y en el Guaviare, territorios que sufren graves tragedias a causa de la violencia armada.
Únete y dona un libro nuevo o en perfecto estado para que el poder transformador de la lectura llegue a los niños y niñas, jóvenes y adultos de las zonas que más lo necesitan.
Buenos días. Good morning. Hoy. Verano. Supposed to check that. Okay. Anyway. Okay, Ivan, how are you? We are very happy to have you here. We'll have I hope, a pleasant and a humorous conversation. Nothing of terrible importance. And I would like to start not with the book, but with the writer. And of course, being you the writer, the first question is about you. Where were you born? Where do you live? How did you start writing? What was that adventure with the Black Theater in Paris? What's your life as a puppeteer? All the things you can just go ahead and say it as long as you want.
As much as you want, You are the one who decides.
Okay, you were born in Prague, isn't it?
Good morning. It's a good morning here. Fortunately, the rain stopped, and everything is okay. There is no trouble outside. The birds are singing, if you want.
How long have you been living in Prague?
In here or in Paris? Here in Prague?
In Prague. Okay.
I'll tell you, I was born here, then we went away in 1968. That was the time of Soviet occupation, the time. And we stayed abroad, and we worked in changes in Germany, in Baden-Baden, lately for television. And we worked in Paris on Cabaret Crazy Horse, 30 years, every year, 6 months. So I had the pleasure to stay many years in Paris, which was very nice at the time, and meet many interesting people. We were lucky finally. It took a time at the beginning, as you know, the immigration, the first years is not the easiest job in the world. But to be honest, Czech people here, that's my opinion, they're, let's say, inside immigration as well. They couldn't write what they wanted. They couldn't pop like you do to write a newspaper, publish books. They could write it just for themselves. And we were in outside immigration. And it's like an earthquake. It's very similar. It changes your life, and it's upon you to find out the way. Both.
How many years were you living outside the Czech Republic?
Yeah, 35 years. 30 years. 30 years.
30 years. Mm-hmm. When and where and why did you start writing?
Oh, I tell you the short, when it was 63, I started to, before 60s, I started to write for radio, for some newspaper, as usual, as every one of us. And the reason, it's not a joke. My writing, it's partly because I try to save for psychiatrists. it's a ventilation of certain feelings, observations. Of course, if some readers are also interested, I'm pleased. But one of the reasons is to find out the balance, and also through your writing, I see all those years, I can discover a little bit about myself, which normally, I think it's a task of writing. You in Latin America, with so great writers, I admire, I love. My latest is Vasquez. I admire Vasquez, whoever, I will not name them. But I have to tell you one thing, even if you accept. You know, during the bad time of so-called normalization in Prague, 68 up till 89, that was a bad time. Wrong time. People couldn't do what they would like to do, to write what they could. It was difficult. And American writer Philip Ross came here. And one of my greatest friends, Ivan Klima, very good writer, Czech writer, talked to him, and Mr. Ross says, you know what, I envy you. And Ivan Klima, who was doing everyday job, I don't know what he was doing just to make living, says, how can you envy me? You are in New York, I am here, no freedom. He says, one day you will have a lot of material to write about. So Latin America, let me, really, this is honest, not only Colombian, Borges, it's the same thing. Ça c'est égal, the French say. You live in countries under pressure. You live in countries that are not easy to live in. But I have a feeling the literature coming from the continent of Latin America is great. It's a big price to pay. I mean, hard life and good writing. But this is a maybe strange law. I don't know. I'm not sure about many things, you know. The older I am, the worse it is.
I have a strange link with Latin America, apart from literature and all that. And it's a person of your family. I would like to tell the people here listening to this conversation, what's that link? I mean, well, you have a very nice family. I mean, you are four brothers. One of them died. One of the ladies, four. Father who went to Auschwitz and wrote, however, a very interesting book with lots of humor, which is incredible. You have one sister left. Tell us something about her. She is our link with you.
It's the best sister you could ever wish to have. She is energetic. She is, I don't know percentage, half Colombian, half Czech, or 3/4, I don't know, she doesn't know. And what I like about her, she is a kind of bridge between your continent and Czech Republic in Europe. It's fantastic. She found her way. She was lucky in having a marriage with Dr. Chavez, Ignacio Chavez, who did a great job with the team of people, of course. Dictionary of Spanish. It was, it got appreciation even in Madrid, or whoever. So she was in a team. And I think she was lucky that she found, I don't know, I have the feeling what's important for all of us is the team at home, the partner, the lady on the other side. If it's lady, the man. And Eliška is, she does many things, and she's straight, she's ironical, she's sometimes very straight, but you don't suffer, you have to accept it. But we have it in the family, you know. So I admire her in a way. I admire her way. I admire her big happening, not Hollywood B film, but real, to become also a Colombian. This is something which, well, in a way, it doesn't exist. It's easy to be an American, you know very well as I do. You get a passport one day, you don't have even to talk English properly, and yet you become American, Australian perhaps, but otherwise it's difficult. And I have the feeling she's lucky. It's not lucky. She did a lot in that way, and she enjoys it. If you ask her, she's home in Prague when she comes. She wants to see the gallery, the theater, hear the language, and she's again home when her airplane lands in Bogota. What else?
We're talking about Eliska Krausova. Am I pronouncing well? Krausova?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
sure.
She went to Colombia because she wanted to learn Spanish, and they said, well, in Colombia they speak the best Spanish in the world, which is not true, but let's keep it a secret. I mean, I don't want people to know that, okay? And she came to Colombia, she went to Colombia, she met Ignacio Chavez there, and Ignacio was a very prominent intellectual and a very executive person at the same time, and a very nice person besides all that. And well, they got together, and she became Colombian, and she has typical Colombian humor. She's very bright. She's very nice. It's nice to talk to her. That's the secret link in Jan and Colombia. That's the secret link. Nacho died 2 years ago, and she kept in Colombia. She once I told her, "Are you planning to go to your country? What are you planning to do?" She said, "This is my country," and she's remaining in Colombia. She has many friends there, and she is a kind of, though she is not a member of the language academy, she's the godmother of the language academy. I became academic when Nacho was the secretary of the academy, and she's a kind of godmother, and she's the one that you should talk to if you want some things to happen. She's fantastic for that. She talks to one person, she arranges things. So we are talking about a person really important for the academy, really important for her friends, really important for her brothers, of course. Now, Jan, I want to ask you about the following sentence you wrote in another book that has not been published in Colombia. I'm talking about this book. You, of course, recognize it.
Reunión de la familia. Voilà, yeah.
Family meetings or something like that. Let me read you what you wrote there. You wrote it in French. I translated it into English. I hope we don't lose too much with that. There are moments when it's impossible to openly say what you think. There are countries where these moments go on for years, and there are people who live all their lives in these countries. This is a very good description of what happens to people, to individual persons, people, countries. Is this your case, or has it been your case?
Yes, therefore I know I don't want to overblow it, so to speak, but it's honestly from my heart. You know, I was once in Mexico working on a stage in a theater 3 months. And after I came back, I said to Eliska, it's first now I understand your country and the Latin. There I saw every day 3 months and working and meeting people, Mexican people. And then I saw, aha, that's the life they lead. Those are the difficulties many people have to overcome, etc. As far as we are concerned, you know, in my age, it's a totalitarian regime, we know both. It's terrible always for anyone in the world. But there is other things too. And I agree with what I wrote, maybe a little bit lucky moment. It is so. And therefore, when I read a book from Latinos, I say Latin, I search for it. And if it's not translated, I am angry and nervous, and I say, why? Come on, Vargas is okay, Losa, Marquez, I know by heart. Give me others. Fuentes, I know many. I don't say all are people of my heart. There are some writers, you know, we people with alphabet. What is alphabet? Alphabet is certain numbers of letters. We can create a poem of it, or we can write a letter to government, like a totalitarian, I don't know, Moscow, somewhere in Asia, years ago in Czechoslovakia, that the neighbor did something wrong. That's alphabet. And other thing, I believe in my heart, every writer is a reader. Therefore, we are subjective, what we like, what we dislike, and we should be very careful with judging. I judge with a coffee, with a little bit of beer at the table, but never openly, because I would be ashamed. How can I? It's so difficult. Sometimes you read something you love. Sometimes you read something you admire. But we cannot absorb everything. We cannot eat all the letters of the world and be happy, I think. So that's the problem. But I am very close to understand, I believe, Latin literature, because it has, in my opinion, that now this is subjective, very great power. I can tell you, maybe in Switzerland, there was Dürrenmatt, there was Max Frisch. In Germany, Wintergras, it's not the same. The countries where the social life is, let's say, good niveau, there is not so much. It's like a juice. You press the orange to get the juice. Unfortunately, people in your country pay a very, very high price. I'm sure of that, to be able to write what Mr. Krauss likes so much. I know Anglo-Saxon literature of you write America in the past time, and this and that. French, every country has some good, great writers. But in your country, I don't know, you have too many. You have too many, and they are fresh. The word is very, it's not exact to say fresh. But they give me a picture of the life they lead and people around. And I am a little primitive, if you want. I am not postmodernist friend. I am a realist. I am a small number in the space of literature. I always say, Jesus, so many people were already before us. So many people from Edgar Poe and Alan Proust had to publish their works for own money or collective money. So if I measure myself, I'm almost invisible. And it's not a theater I play here. I am aware of it. And I think writer has to be down on earth with his legs. Otherwise, we can dream. We should dream. But how difficult it is to express it. We should dream, but we should see, smell what's around us. And that you have. You are
Now,
very rich, very rich.
the authors, the Latin American authors you used to read that you like, sometimes are very different. Borges and Garcia Marquez, I mean, they share the language. That's the most important part of their sharing, but they are very different. The same can be said between Garcia Marquez and other authors like Octavio Paz or whatever. However, do you find freshness in all that?
Yes, because, okay, maybe I don't know, what is the name of the gentleman? Benedetti, there are some dark writers. The one who writes about the grave, I think Benedetti, I don't know. They are writers.
Onetti, maybe Onetti.
Yes, they are not very close to me, but I have to read it. to find out about myself. It's very easy to decide, oh, I will read this guy or this gentleman. You know, no, I don't do it. I want to see, what is the name of, now I have bad memory, the guy who writes about Nazis in Latin America, very modernistic.
About what topic?
It's a novel about nazists in Latin America, very modern. He's very he's a wild guy, you know. But no, but when I read by Borges, who is not easy to read, and it's great, no doubt, completely different. And I found out, I couldn't believe it, that he wrote a story in Argentina about a Czech student who is waiting for death penalty in Prague in 1939. I was astonished. I said, how could he? Jesus, Argentina, Buenos Aires. You see, there is something great about those small and big books. This connection. How could he discover this guy who worked in a library, as far as I am a little bit educated about Borges. And then there are things, he's very
one of the explanations might be that Argentina has received very heavy immigration, especially from the Jewish world. And that brings Argentina into Europe very easily, and you'll find authors in Argentina that look very European sometimes. It adds richness. I don't mean the contrary. It adds richness.
It's a bizarre word, but you know, I honestly, I love, of course, it's very close to my heart, humor, no doubt. Such a people like unfortunate life, Mikhail Zoshchenko in Russia, such a great writer, Ilf Petrov. Those are the guys who went through Stalinist era. And Babel, we don't even know where they were left. We don't know it, many. And yet we have the treasure, even in humor, which is a little bit different, specific. Zoshchenko, and I am like when you eat, I like to eat from different plates. And so I'm not specifically close only to humor or satire. I'm not satirical. I like certain portion, if you like, of reality in writing, and then you jump over, of course. You give more pain to it, but I like not to dream. I am what I am. You cannot change it. You cannot switch.
But anyway, humor is present in many of the great novels of the world. I mean, Cervantes, of course.
Oh.
In Shakespeare, in many French authors, even in Italian authors, of course. Even in Russia, there are some authors who can manage, humorous situations and all that. I mean, humor is part of the great literature. I have no doubt, and your books have a lot of humor. Now, we have talked a lot about Czech Republic. Now I want to talk about the book that was published recently in Colombia and will be presented in the Feria del Libro. The title of this book is in Spanish is El caballo no come ensalada y cocomro. Okay, that's in Spanish. Now in English is a little different because it doesn't say pepino but cucumber. Now I want to talk about the book and about the title of the book. I'll first ask you to describe what are you saying in a few words. I mean, this is a person who, a doctor, an engineer, who comes back to a small town, his town, and finds a different world. Tries to explore it, and he it's a response that I won't tell you because I'm not a writer who tells it. Just a few idea about what the book is about.
It is, when I got back here to Prague, to Czech Republic, I came after many, many years when was a time I couldn't come back. It was impossible. I would go to prison for 1 year, whatever, my wife. And in a way, I was shocked by everything. The language, little changes. The language has its own life. And I was abroad in Paris, in Germany, and in the world we played. And the language, of course, doesn't care. It changes. Young people, new generations, very interesting. So sometimes I was surprised how people in the shop talk, how people in a tram, in a restaurant, whatever. That was first thing. Then I felt that these people who remained here, in difference to me, they went through a period of time I cannot quite imagine, despite all informations I had. We had to exile newspapers, magazines, books, publishing houses in Switzerland, in Canada, and yet it's different to come into the place after a certain, I would call it earthquake inside of a man. Everything changed very quickly, unexpectedly. Nobody knew. Nobody had in his calendar a date marked down, day of revolution, velvet revolution, whatever. And so there was so much to absorb that I picked up a figure of a doctor of politology, which, by the way, is inspired by my brother in America, who is a professor. And we never talk about that book, I think. I don't know, maybe. And because I realized he who spends the time teaching politology, Moscow, this and that, Stalinism, and all of a sudden, they open the archives, everything is different, really. So there was so much surprises in this country. I was a newcomer. I published 3, 4 books abroad, Switzerland. Here not, I was very young when I left. I was 30 and not even so. And all of a sudden I was here. And it was my country. Prague was my town. And yet it's so difficult to explain a feeling. And I finally found out, if you go back after such a long period of time to some place was so close where you were born, you cannot even recognize it in the first time. You have to get used to it. Something. I got the feeling the most important in our life is the way, the walking from somewhere to somewhere. It sounds absurd. In my case, it was true, because good people were the people, friends were friends. Many anyhow escaped, many left for exile, like myself and my wife. But I felt, now you have fresh eyes. But when I started the book, I found out I have to throw out a lot of it. It was too melancholic. I thought, no, don't be a Hollywood B writer for script. Come on, sit down and wait a little bit. Try to look around with cool eyes. It took time. It took me time. But in the first part, foreword of the book, I try to explain it, how people are in euphoria, how they fly. And like a few pages after, people in the town hall already discuss who is guilty for the pastime. Isn't that very human? Is that someone? That's us. That's us. That's my feeling. That's all. Not much to explain. I'm almost.
When you say that's us, means that that small town is the Czech Republic,
No, I mean,
even Eastern Europe.
yes, because we are marked down. Look, in Czech Republic, there was a German occupation, 1939, 45. Then there was a freedom not even 3 years, and in 48, there was a change, brutal change, till 68. There was a hope. Oh, Dubček, hope, we shall try socialism in human
The
faith.
springtime, the springtime.
Yes, exactly as you said. And that collapsed again. Moscow said, no, you cannot do this. It's a bad example. And then came what people here call normalization. There was good, better food on the table. There was some, better clothes, but there was no a big change. Okay, people were not so much in prison for this and that. No, they were like hypnotized in a way. People gave to each other still signs. They were doing this with the eye. What they were doing is this, I don't know. But they were changing their curriculum vitae, trying to pass out, to pass further. I never judge this because it's such a difficult task. And I read a lot about German Nazi time. It's very, very, very good to learn. I read a book about gulags, about Stalinist Russia. And all totalitarian regimes in a better or worse time are a little bit similar. Good. It doesn't have to be war, thanks God. But a human being adapt. We adapt ourselves. We have to, partly. I don't judge. And we don't have to. And who is the judge? How to survive? Those are the questions. And those are difficult questions maybe tomorrow in Brazil. I'm sure of that. The man has nothing to eat. How can he exist in Venezuela?
And how do you analyze the fact that some of these countries, Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, who were part of the Soviet world, the socialist world, now are being conducted by right-wingers, but extreme right-wingers, like in Hungary, after not many years? What happened?
It's very difficult. I have the feeling because we are European Union. Okay, that's a very good idea. At the beginning, Giscard d'Estaing, Helmut Schmidt. I liked Helmut Schmidt very much. Was a social democrat in Germany, one of the best chancellors, I think, in the history after the war. These people had an idea, and they always admitted we did not know this euro, money, currency. We just were dreaming. And now we are in realization time. It's already everything settled. There is Brussels, Strasbourg. I don't judge, but I have the feeling the freedom for us Czechs, I talk about Czechs, it's still very fresh, and we should slowly realize that the most important freedom, I know it sounds improbable, is the freedom we try to carry on in us. We cannot constantly say, okay, this is wrong, this government, oh, this is wrong, oh, this was good, but he's wrong. In the parliament, they fight each other. Oh, they are all the same. This negative, this, you can jump to Schweikism. You can jump to, which is a work of genius too. It's not Cervantes, but it's great too. It's about survival. To me, Schweik is about survival. He's talking blah, 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 blah. And he's living blah, 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 blah. And he's not saying what he feels. He just wants to survive. That is beer. So it's not easy. The Czech Republic is a country that could really support a lot its culture, because music, philharmonic, we have some some talents. We are not constructors like Germans. We have young generation of IT men and girls who are very, very talented. It takes time. And I'm not sure how much time it takes to enjoy and participate. Somehow in the freedom we got, in a way we got it. We have obtained it not by mail, not by post, that many people sacrificed their lives for it, you know.
What happened? What happened to Václav Havel legacy? Was one of the modern heroes of the new Europe.
Yes, I think he was a man of vision, a real man of vision. All his life, he tried to work for the community to make it better. And of course, then came the moment, was honest, and yet in politics, he admitted at the end, it's not easy. People like him with vision are sometimes are having a problem with practical politicians who are rationally say, but sometimes it's a career question. It's a man of vision. I don't know, yes, I say something maybe funny. Abraham Lincoln in America, when we read about it, it's a dream of man. So Havel was a very positive man, and he was fighting sometimes in his heart, in his head, with the reality, politics, what we call, what our magazines write every day, the reality is this. And it was not easy. I think he didn't jump to it. He was just in the beginning thinking of it. Shall I do it? But then many people in this country told him, hey, you have to do it. You have a moral paper. You are character. You did something positive always. So he tried. And as you say, absolutely right, he did a great job for Czechs in abroad. And if I am going to be ironic, and I am going to say that, he did a bigger job sometimes abroad than in this country. I have to admit.
That's why not in the country, why not inside its own country?
Because people are expecting so much. Hey, do this. Or they say, Monday, somebody or Tuesday says, hey, that's fault of Havel. Like if he would be doing 20 ministeriums or 35, I don't know how many.
And give me a year. If you have to place a year in which the plot of your book takes place, what year would that be? I mean, when this guy returns a small town and finds a new country, not only a small town, new country.
It is the year when we could, this is the way to say it, we could come back here, and yet we went every year a few times to Paris, to Germany. We had to work still, and then we came again back here and there and here. So around after Velvet Revolution, 90, when did we come? 90? 90, since year 1990. Mm-hmm. And we didn't settle here for the whole time until years after. But I could, because I was from abroad, smell, I believe, maybe I could smell a lot of things with a fresh nose, because I was not living constantly here. So I could go and come and feel and hear. And it was good. It was positive.
Your book, you name very few names and refer mainly to the work or occupation of each character. Is there a special reason to do that? I mean, to avoid names, but instead refer to the, I don't know, the guy who sells the meat or whatever?
To avoid names, yeah, you discover, you see there is not many names there. Yeah, yes. I call it, yeah, you're right. I don't know what is this. Is it my fault? Is it my phobia? names. I don't know why. Maybe because, yes, one thing I didn't do when I came, I didn't write any critical, nothing here for newspaper. Yet they invited me, blah, blah, blah. I was better talking about Umberto Eco, about something interesting, John Steinbeck, but nothing about Paris, about life abroad. I felt I have no right to talk critically. I wasn't here, so I would be ashamed. It took me time until the day that somebody, a politician, wrote years after, 15 later, that les émigrés, people exiled, came back to have better life, to enjoy the economical maybe advantage because they were years abroad. So I wrote an article first time, and I wrote at the end, please don't you ever forget that the emigration people, exiles, are the same people like the nation from where they come from. There is no difference. They are up, positive, negative, the creative, pragmatic, and they accepted it. But I never mixed up with certain subjects because I felt not entitled to do it. How could I? Hey, here I come and I know everything. It's ugly. It's not good. It's negative. Like someone, Colombia, he studies maybe at Harvard, Yale, and he gets a good education. And he lives in the United States for 5 years. It's also not good when he comes back and says, hey, here in Bogota, we have to do this. Come on. You have to be diplomatic, because otherwise you look improbable. Many people.
It is not a, I mean, it's a pessimistic novel, I think, is my opinion. But it is not humorless novel. In the contrary, there are all kinds of humor, barracks humor, black humor, situation humor. And although beforehand we talked a little bit about humor, I would like to stress a little bit more what means humor for you as a writer.
Oh, it's how should I put it? I try. I like it. I tell you, you said something interesting, pessimistic. One of my favorite subjects are good collection of Jewish anecdotes. I love them. They are better than what I write. They are anonymous, and yet the humor, it's like a velvet, and it's a little melancholic. It's in neighborhood of tragic. Sometimes, not every anecdote. I'm not saying. Depends on collection. You know it. I see. I admire this, and sometimes it's strict. It's not too long. It's from the beginning to the punching line to the point. So this is what I like. I like, of course, I like that when I was young. Cervantes was, Quixote was enormous discovery, and it never changed. It's a work of genius, but it doesn't happen every year, every 10 years. Kafka is genius. There are so many guys, geniuses. I don't measure myself, I am happy if I rewrite a thing 10 times. And if I feel, is this the end? Okay. Then I see it 2 years after. I would change this, and I would. But if you do it constantly, you go to a nut house. They take you and they say, this guy will rewrite the thing for 30 years. Let's take him to the safe asylum, So you cannot do it. You cannot do it.
You mentioned Kafka, and I have a question about the Czech language. Kafka never wrote as I have read, never wrote is on Czech language. And Milan Kundera did it. Then he switched to French, isn't it?
He switched to French, which I understand. He's not the only one. We had some other writers who switched to And Milan Kundera is something which I don't understand. He has excellent essays I read with love. They are not very thick, thin, about Cervantes, by the way, great.
Mhm.
And I never understood, but that's his problem. It's not problem. When he said that he simplified the language, originally, at the time when he still wrote the joke in Czech language, before he switched to French. And he said, I switched to simplify. I felt, can I switch the language? Cannot. So and I felt, okay, it's your right and it's your good for you. You live in Paris, why not? Try it. And it works, okay, fine. But to me, I am a slave of my stupid attitudes. In my age, you can switch maybe from one tram to another one when you drive through Prague from autobus. But no, but it's acceptable. Look, what is his name? Beckett. Beckett was Irish guy. I admire his place. And he then wrote in French in Paris. I was astonished. He switched from Irish, from English to Irish. So this happens. It's not important. It's important to, I don't know. I have the feeling, yet I have the feeling it's not so much important what we write about. We are far the canon of a world literature. In my opinion, there is almost everything of subject, tragic, death, everything. So today it's important not so much what we write about, but how we do it.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you that probably Ignacio Chavez will have this to you, which is, do you think that national languages, those languages that are only spoken in a certain country, are bound to disappear, while others that grow every day, like English, Chinese, Spanish, the heavy presence in the world, do you think they will disappear on the time?
No, I didn't catch it. I didn't get it. Can you tell me?
There's a lot of languages, rich, pretty, that are only spoken in one country.
Yeah.
Are they bound to disappear to the force of other countries, other languages like English, Chinese, and Spanish, for instance? Will they disappear, or will be only be a language that is spoken by a couple of thousand people?
This is a good question. You know, I know nothing, but I am astonished that Eliška told me, for instance, about dialects of Colombian Spanish, Indios. So I had no idea, of course, because I don't live there, but I was astonished. And she says, yes, it is like that. Then sometimes I ask her, Ignacio, Spanish in Madrid, in Colombia, in Mexico, it differs as far as I know, and I know minimum. I know practically nothing. I know only about differences sometimes about American English, which is not English, it's American, and proper English from London. I don't know if these languages disappear. What can support it? People who speak it, people who write in it, people who teach in it. I don't know. I don't know. It's a question for billions of dollars, so nobody will pay that.
We are almost running out of time, but I want to ask you why the title of the book. I want to remember it in Spanish. El caballo no come ensalada pepino. It's the title. I know why, and I will add a few facts about that. Would you please explain that?
I don't know how I discover it. How did I discover it? Except Shishel Natitu. How did I come? What was stupid. Of course. Because at the base of reality is a telephone as a connection product. Something for connection. Somebody, well, invented it so we speak one to each other. And my feeling, and I like what you said, ironic or pessimistic. Yes, it is in it, I'm sure. When I came back to my homeland, I again felt, can we connect each other after all those catastrophes that passed this country? Can we, maybe one day you ask the same question in Colombia, maybe you ask it tomorrow, I don't know. But because there are so many differences that you also, I'm sure, dislike, or you would like to have them disappear. So connection.
I think this is very interesting because I would like to tell our viewers that comes from a phrase that was pronounced by Johann Philipp Reis. Is that a correct pronunciation? Reis, a German scientific. In 1834, he invented the telephone, and it was actually not the telephone, but the grandfather of the telephone. But the problem he had in the laboratory was that it couldn't be understood properly. So he used a phrase that is very confusing and very dark in German. I cannot pronounce, of course. But translates exactly that. Do you speak German, don't you? Probably you remember that phrase in German.
If I remember what do you mean?
The phrase that Rice said and became famous because the horse.
No, I found it. I don't know. Did I found it? Was it by Bell or by someone? Now I'm lost. I am sure I found it somewhere. Otherwise, I would have never invented it. It's logical. But I don't know. I have to check it again. You may be unsure, but I am sure it came as an inspiration from some kind of reality. The problem is that somebody has some invention patented, and the other guy doesn't have it patented in time. That's true. That many inventors had it. So,
I understand that he used that phrase because it's very difficult to understand in German, and he wanted to prove that his telephone invented the word telephone by the way, distant, which means tele, and sound, which means phone, telefono. And he invented the word, and he was trying to show that yes, it was clear. And for me, that struggle, clear, is very interesting in that phrase. And I translated to Spanish not the word, but the sound that I read in German, and it goes more or less like this. A Gustavo le gusta agarrar gorgojos y guardarlos en su gorra. A Gustavo le gusta agarrar gorgojos y guardarlos en su gorra. It's more or less the same music as the German word. So he was trying to show that that difficult phrase could be heard clearly, and his invent was wonderful. And from there became a famous phrase, a famous sentence. Now, I want to say that I talked to a friend of mine, a veterinarian, and I asked him, do you think that a horse should not eat cucumber, salad, pino? We use pepino, and your sister explained to me that there are two kinds of pepino in Colombia. One is the cucumber, which is it will be the translation hombro, and the other one is the pepino crespo, which is the curly pepino. So you know more about pino. Anyway, the case is that when you use that phrase, and I took it to the veterinarian, I said, is this true? Is true that the horse should not eat pepino salad? And he said, yes. He said, these vegetables produce a dangerous accumulation of gases. That means that it could also be unhealthy for the owner of the horse. That's what he told me. And I discovered that the phrase, I love the phrase. At the beginning, I just loved a title that is original. And then I discovered what you said, connection and clarity. It was a very good phrase to be used. Will you? This will be my very, not the last question, but before the last question. Will you give your readers one of your novels in this kind of like mosaic novels with scenes and short chapters, like in family meetings in the Pino, about your experience as an artist of the Crazy Horse? You went there to this famous cabaret in Paris as a theater man, a person who represents short theater works. Will you have a novel about that? I would find it would be wonderful. Cheers at the Crazy Horse without having to dance in bikini.
Yeah, it's a good idea, but I don't think. I just wrote a couple of articles about Crazy. I had a wonderful time there on the stage. So many years, 30 years. We both with my wife, and I wrote about it. Documentary, a few chapters in one documentary book, no fiction. But when you speak about it, I think about the crazy idea. It's good to have a symbol of a telephone as a connection of two human beings. But we are in a position to find out a way to be able to give certain message. Otherwise, like a modern time, we will have a very good equipment and I can do blah, blah, blah. What did you eat today? How are you? I love you. I don't love you. Where we go for vacation. And the older I am, the more question, and the older I am, the less answers.
Last question, Van. Have you thought that the Crazy Horse came crazy because it ate cucumber salad? Could be. That horse became crazy to a crazy the salad? Might be.
Yes, maybe. Yes, maybe.
Why not? Why not?
Why not? Why not? This word is not so. What do we understand under normal? It's so difficult to express. What is normal? I don't know.
Right.
No, I don't know.
Ivan, I enjoyed very much your book. I hope your next book will be published very soon in Spanish. And I hope to visit you once and talk to you.
Don't destroy Colombian readers. I appreciate it's an honor that I had a chance to talk to you. I don't think in late years I had such a deep deep dialogue with any people. With many people I had here, but I would have to put a few together, so it would be like with you. And I did enjoy it very much. I thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you, Ivan. Have a nice time.
Have a good time.